I always hated the fact that I was never blessed with any magic, but in place of that, I was blessed with wonderful teammates. When you can't beat fate on your own, that's when you rely on your friends and team. Being weak is nothing to be ashamed of. Staying weak is. Protect whatever is precious to you. One day it'll lead you to protect something else. I've been facing adversity from the day I was born. No matter how many of you there are, or what happens, I'll overcome it all. Surpass your limit. Right here, right now. Black Clover tells the story of Asta, a young boy who has no magic abilities. His dream is to become the Wizard King without magic. Starting serialization in 2015, Black Clover has reached mainstream success within Shonen Jump, becoming one of the juggernauts of the new generation. But does the quality of its story hold up to the mighty titles that have defined the magazine as the center of stability in the manga industry? One of the main reasons Black Clover has risen to the top of Shonen Jump so quickly has to be because of how easy it is to identify with our main characters. Asta and Yuno's goal to become Wizard King, even though they are lowborn, is instantly compelling. In addition, the world of Black Clover is easy to get behind with the classic fantasy vibe. I am particularly fond of the first handful of chapters where we go from town to town discovering new types of magic and get to learn about the other members of the Black Bulls. As our main character, Asta does just enough to keep the story moving forward. His struggle of wanting to be a great wizard but not having an easy path to accomplish that is compelling. I know I have my fair share of goals where the odds are stacked against me, and seeing Asta keep trying even after he knows he has no magic is really inspiring. However, outside of that, his character doesn't really stand out in a sea of try-hard boys. Asta never does anything out of the expected in the series. When a difficult situation arises, his morals are never compromised, and his skill is rarely too little to surpass his limits. And when those moments do happen where he is beaten down, his teammates are always there to rescue him, which leads me to one of my favorite parts of the series. Even if Asta isn't the most interesting character, the Black Bulls more than make up for it. Luck is a chaotic, violence-fueled maniac, and Yami is a bad shit insane captain. Because of the uniqueness of each Black Bull member, it really makes Asta feel more interesting than he actually is. One of my favorite moments is when Asta and Luck are essentially speed dating. Asta has absolutely no idea what's going on, and Luck just not giving a fuck is a hilarious break from the action. I know a series has a strong cast when some of its most memorable moments are during the breaks between the action. The strong initial supporting cast is accompanied by good pacing for the first 30 chapters or so. Tabata establishes a nice flow as no story arc goes on for too long, but still explores many different uses of magic while fleshing out the Clover Kingdom. I left the start of the story excited to see where it would take me, and if it could lean any more into the really great cast. However, as the story moves forward, issues rise in Tabata's storytelling. The mystery surrounding the Clover Kingdom invaders is intriguing enough, but every fight surrounding them starts to fall into the same formula. All of the differing personalities of the Black Bulls turn into microphones for friendship as they assist Asta in defeating the bad guy, and with the plot not making any significant forward momentum for a while there, the fights start to blend together into a series of mediocre encounters. For me, I felt the weight of this during the Seabed Temple arc. Following one of the better encounters in the series where Licht fights Yami, and we start to understand the raw power level of a captain, and see the cult-like following that surrounds Licht. It felt like we were entering the climax of this arc, and then instead we get shoved to this silly side quest. Each of the fights here are particularly uninteresting, and while we do get to see Asta do even more teamwork, This arc really pushes the boundaries of how much you can buy into the surpass your limits mantra. The stakes of this arc also fell off a cliff in comparison to the battles before it. The stakes are completely nerfed because of the presence of Yami. There is a really dumb explanation for Yami not being able to help the Black Bulls out, but in the back of the reader's mind, you know if anything goes crazy, Yami will be able to break free. And who would have guessed it, that is exactly what happens at the end of the arc. Yami comes to help Asta, and they're able to save the day. In this point in reading the series, I had to question my overall commitment to going forward. Like we have discussed earlier, there are so many other great titles, new and old in Shonen Jump, that I could be checking out. And everything that was so fun about Black Clover in the beginning was turning into something that was below mediocrity. I had made it almost 80 chapters into the series, and the spark I had for it had already been lost. Then all of that changed. The Royal Knights arc focuses on a selection of an elite few who will be tasked with the immediate protection of the Clover Kingdom, a series of contests where our characters are forced to fight one another to prove their worth as Magic Knights. In this arc, Tabata leans into the series' strengths while also introducing two new important characters. At the start of the arc, we are introduced to Zora and Mariliona, as their presence alone totally flips the story around. Zora is the long-lost member of the Black Bulls, a wizard who despises royalty, and his style of magic reflects that. His personality clashes with Asta's, and when they are both on screen, it accounts for some of the best banter in the series. Zora doesn't feel like a character with the sole purpose of helping Asta, but has his own history and outlook on life that actually differs from Asta. So when you have these two work together to overcome a goal, it makes some of the best conflicts in the series. In similar fashion, Mariliona's energy alone gets me hyped to continue reading the series. She is one of the many badass female characters in this series, and when she is introduced, I feel as if a lot of the other characters start to get even more interesting. The Royal Knights arc changed the focus from no-named villains to friends all striving for the same goal, with only a limited amount of people actually being able to succeed. The strength of this arc, unsurprisingly, comes from the strong cast of Black Clover. Here is a 3x3 of my favorite characters in the series that I posted to Twitter not long ago. The one unique thing about this list is that our two main characters, Asta and Yuno, as well as any villain in the series, didn't make the cut. I know this list is subjective, but it highlights just how strong the supporting cast is in this series. I can't think of any other show that is lifted up by its side characters to quite the same extent as Black Clover. And this is why this arc is so damn good, because the Royal Knights arc focuses on interactions between these characters, all of them trying to prove how far they have come as wizards. Building to the epic climax where Langris turns evil and Asta, Luck, and Magma put their lives on the line to fight another member of the Clover Kingdom. The ending of this arc leading to the finale of this entire saga. At no point in reading Black Clover was I more invested than I was here. All of the pieces of the puzzle were finally coming together. The power system wasn't just big moves back and forth, but had real strategy to every fight. Asta was doing more than being a poster child for trying hard, and the supporting cast was really able to shine. And the start of the final battle is insane, as many of our heroes' souls are taken over by old elf spirits. Now our heroes have to fight their friends for real, with death being a very real possibility for both sides. Gone is the simple morality of the series, and now we have entered a spot where the elves are understandable in their hatred of the Clover Kingdom. Every step that was needed to be taken for Black Clover to become a top-tier shonen series was being fulfilled in this saga's conclusion. All we needed now was the epic final battle to follow through. Asta and co. are finally going to be able to take down the impenetrable Licht. with all of the hatred from both sides boiling over into a satisfying ending battle, a fight for ideologies and to prove that your people have been wronged. An epic clash that rivals that of Pain versus Naruto, Ichigo versus Aizen, until the introduction of the devil. I know there are a lot of people who will disagree with me on this, but the introduction of the devil was one of the most deflating moments I have ever had reading a manga. Tabata had finally put all the pieces together to really get this series ticking, and with the introduction of one villain, everything changed. Gone was the nuance of the conflict, so we could get the typical good versus evil showdown. The fight was no longer about people fighting because they had been hurt by others, but fighting in the face of a totally separate entity. And what really stings about this one is the build-up I had for the devil going into the series. I feel like there was a period of time where I couldn't go on Twitter without seeing the devil's intro panel everywhere, and that always got me so excited for how crazy of a villain he would be. And to be fair, he has an amazing design, which makes it even more disappointing that the writing of his character doesn't live up to the hype. If the build-up for this arc would have been different, the devil could have so easily been a fantastic villain. But because he replaced a complex conflict with a straightforward one, it is hard to feel like he made the story better at the time he was introduced. At the end of the saga, we are launched into the new threat with the Spade Kingdom conflict. Now the devils are the main focus of the series, and there is actually some really cool stuff involving them. The artwork has certainly never been better. Tabata really getting creative in making the devils look simultaneously badass and terrifying. Because the devils have gotten some proper build-up, the characters who have made deals with them have become some of the best villains in the series. However, even with all this said, Black Clover still has trouble being consistent. Out of all the characters in the series, Yuno embodies the overall quality of Black Clover for me. Yuno is a beautifully designed character whose goal is simple to get behind. He is a kid who came from nothing, but is still able to become one of the strongest wizards. He and Asta together show that you can come from nothing and take very different paths to achieve greatness. While Yuno fades in the narrative at times and lacks the interesting personality of other side characters, he is a very solid secondary main character because of how easy it is to sympathize with him. However, in the Spade Kingdom saga, it is revealed that Yuno is the long-lost prince of the Spade Kingdom, explaining how he has so much magic in this world and giving him a place to rule when inevitably Asta becomes Wizard King, making his character far less compelling for the sake of giving him a cool power-up later on and making the story have less drama and more straightforward conclusions. And this is how I feel about the entirety of Black Clover. There is a lot to like here if you're looking for a series to give you that shonen itch and you've been thinking about starting it previously. I would highly recommend checking it out. But I can't shake the feeling that there is a level of missed potential with the series. Black Clover is the definition of a middle-of-the-road series for me. There is a lot of great things here, some of which I want to discuss in future videos. Enough to where I think people should check it out. However, the lack of consistency in Tabata's writing is why it will never land close to my Mount Rushmore of Shonen Jump titles. But even with that said, I am still excited to continue reading this series weekly, because even a mediocre shonen is still worth checking out. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider checking out my Patreon down below. Any support there helps a lot. I'm excited to make more Black Clover content in the future, so thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.